Thank you so much, Chamberlain. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Morning on Sunrise Daily, where we do business for just about 30 minutes before we head back to the Sunrise Daily studio. It's a Monday, so we have great time to spend together. Starts from the global space, where oil prices fell on Monday after posting their steepest weekly rise in over a year last week as oversupply concerns amid softer demand countered the worries of a wider Middle East war disrupting exports in the key producing areas. We keep our eyes on the number now. We see a drop in Brent, 31 cents drop. That's about 0.4% to $77.74 a barrel. We see the tension squeezing in there and bringing in that price. While for WTI, it's also a slip. It's 20 cents that has been shaved off to $74.18. That's 0.27%. And yes, last week was, well, a dip one for both commodities. Brent rose by 8% last week, and that's the biggest weekly gain since January 2023, while the WTI gained 9.1% week on week. That's the most since March 2023. It was on expectations that Israel could strike Iranian oil infrastructure in response to that missile that was sent to Israel on October 1. Israel bombed Hezbollah targets in Lebanon and the Gaza Strip. That happened yesterday, Sunday, ahead of a one-year anniversary, which is the major conversation today in the foreign scene. Attacks on Israel that triggered the current war between Israel and Iranian-backed militant groups. Its defense minister has said that all options were open for retaliation against Iran. Well, we'll come back home to Nigeria and look at the Naira. We saw appreciation, even though we're still in that uncomfortable zone of 1,600. So we did see a gain of 1.69%. This is obviously for Friday. This is how we closed the week last week. So it opened at 1,659 Naira 26 kobo, but closed at 1,631 Naira 21 kobo. It was a gain. But obviously we're still not in that very comfortable place. This amount about 28 Naira. That's what was added at the close of trade. We also saw a gain on NAFEX, also 0.26% to close at 1,655 Naira 66 kobo. That's how the Naira closed. Even there was an intervention in the market on Thursday and none on Friday, but we still saw that gain at the close of trade. I'm still talking about the currency now. The governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Laimi Kadusu, has been defending, I'm sure you've seen the news, where the bank's decision to implement electronic foreign exchange matching system. I wonder if we'll call this FMs or EFMs. We'll find out in due course, saying that the move is rooted in the understanding that trust is essential to central banking. Mr. Kadusu, who was addressing members of the Harvard Club of Nigeria in Lagos over this weekend, reiterates the determination to enhance transparency and provide more accurate oversight for foreign exchange transactions, while noting that containing inflation remained the bank's core mission. He acknowledged that the CBN was yet to meet its target. However, he's stressing that recent declines reported by the National Bureau of Statistics in July and August 2024 shows that the CBN was moving in the right direction. All right, let's take a break now. When we come back, of course, the program is just starting. We have conversations waiting for you right here on Business Morning on Sunrise Daily.
In Nigeria, a single change set off a chain reaction that is reshaping the nation's economy and the lives of its citizens.
When fuel subsidies were removed last year, prices at the pump surged by over 200%. But that was just the first domino to fall.
Most businesses in Nigeria are micro, mini, small, and medium scale. They are really very small. So they all rely solely on PMS as against diesel. So because they have to rely on PMS and the subsidy on PMS has been removed, so it's going to affect them. It's going to affect their cost line.
Transportation costs tripled almost overnight.
Normally, before I'll reach by Mobile, I'll have full passengers. But now we're carrying one, some are trekking.
I park my own private car to go on public buses.
Prices of things changes, like it changes unnecessarily.
Even to buy one daily cup of rice, even garri self, even oyelubo, everything is cost.
The country is now at turbulent stage.
This triggered a rapid increase in food prices as the cost of moving goods skyrocketed.
Not long ago, we used to transport our produce from Gombe State at the cost of 400 naira per bag, but now we have to pay 1,700 naira per bag. This has really affected us a lot, and we have no option but to include the additional cost when selling to our customers.
For street vendors, the effects are dire.
Mineral, you are selling one now, it's 400 naira. Before it's 350. If you want to buy one pack now, it's 45. Our gain now is 300 naira inside the mineral, 12 pack.
Over-the-counter drugs that were once affordable appear now to be out of reach, putting lives at risk.
Our customers sometimes, for them to get some drugs that will take care of them is difficult. Because even common 1,500 malaria drugs, some people cannot afford it. Because the reason is that they will think of food first. Somebody that have not eaten cannot be taking drugs on empty stomach. And instead of that, they will tell you, just give me paracetamol. I go well, madam. Don't worry, I go well.
In the wake of the hike in prices, protesters flooded the streets, demanding relief from the soaring costs.
Cost of living, what is
The government insists these are necessary growing pains.
The commitment to ease those pains is a very, very robust one, and it is going to keep having beneficial results as we go down the road.
According to the National Bureau of Statistics, headline inflation rate eased to 32.15% in August 2024, down from 33.4% in July. However, this slight decrease appears to do little to ease the burden of skyrocketing prices across the country. The true cost of this crisis cannot be measured in naira alone.
Some of the issues that they are bringing up would be, not being able to get transportation, to attend school. So there is low academic performance as a result of this economic challenge. Of course, for those who are in marriage, the men are complaining of not being able to provide for their families, so they are having issues with sleeping because they are wondering where they can get the next meal for their family.
In education, the hidden costs are equally alarming.
If you put too much school fees, you'll be knocked out of business if it is a business you are into. So you have to just maintain. And how do you maintain your staff when you have rising prices? So it's difficult. The thing is challenging. Government never gave any grant. I'm not aware of them giving a grant to anybody. Rather, they are taxing us on a daily basis.
As businesses waver, unemployment rises, creating a new wave of social challenges.
We have more people using drugs because they don't have a job. We have more people, going on the street now, more people wanting to rape and other forms of sexual abuse, indulge in other forms of sexual abuse and conduct disorder because they don't have a job.
As the crisis deepens, questions emerge. How much more can Nigerians endure? And at what cost to the nation's future?
If we don't address the issues right now, we're going to have an escalation and a ripple effect. And what is coming, I don't think that we are ready to handle it.
My advice to Mr. President, therefore, is to call the central bank governor and all the key stakeholders to find an alternative to policy of flotation, because we cannot practice blood flotation policy in a developing import-dependent country with subsidy removal. And I tell you, if this continues, things will only become tougher for the people.
As millions of Nigerians continue to persevere, they are hoping that beyond this period of hardship, a more secure tomorrow lies ahead. Will Ibong, Channels Television News.
The President, on behalf of the BOT, Governing Council members, and entire members of the Nigerian Association of LPG Marketers, cordially invites the public and stakeholders in the liquefied petroleum gas sector to our 2024 National Conference. Theme, Sustainable Energy Growth in Nigeria, LPG and the Future. Venue, Radisson Blue Hotel, Ikeja, Lagos. Date, October 9th, 2024. Time, 9 a.m. The event will be declared open by the Honorable Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Right Honorable Ekperipe Ekpo. Guest speakers, Senator Jaribe, Chairman, Senate Committee on Gas, Mrs. Nkechi Obi, Group Managing Director, Techno Oil Limited, Mr. Ububo Okoha, Executive Director, NMDPRA, and other distinguished speakers. Special guest, Honorable Sergius Ogun, Chairman of Panel Session. Announcer, Barrister Edu Inyang, Chairman, Organizing Committee.
So there you have it. Before that commercial break, we did see Will Ibong capturing some of the consequences of the reforms, ongoing reforms. I mean, even yesterday or over the weekend at an event, we saw the Chief of Staff telling us the mind of the President that these hard steps are necessary for a better future. But we also see the cost to the people today. Can the people survive today for the gains of these reforms tomorrow? And as Will captured in that report, it's not just about the financial report. Yes, people have to pay more for transportation. The purchasing power has reduced. Diet has changed, but also the psychological and mental pressure that all of this brings. You had the health practitioner there talking about, it seems some people are even reacting by using violence, rape, and all of that you may not directly think about. These are some of the consequences of the reforms. Will they really be worth it at the end of the day? And when is the end of the day? I wonder. So these are the questions building in the mind of Nigerians. Perhaps it's the need for more communication, more information out there, or is it the need for the people to see more sacrifices and tightening of the belt as it's now been captured by the government? Do we still see creation of portfolios, and these are individuals who will obviously be paid from the government, increasing the cost of governance in the country? Have we seen intentional attempts by members of the administration to also cut down on their expenses and perhaps feel the pain that the people are feeling? Well, these are some of the worries that Nigerians have at this time and continue to ask if the government can do or is really doing something about it. What's the timeline that we're working with? Well, that's also another one. These conversations obviously were captured at our October 1 meeting, summit is what we had here on Channels Television. And we'll stay on this issue right here on Business Morning to see different perspective to it. But more importantly, to see the way forward. Now, one other aspect is that in May, we're talking of the FX, the value of the Naira. And somebody did say, or many people have said, that if we're able to deal with the value of the Naira, then inflation and all of this, everything will at least substantially. Now, in May, the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Ms. Doris Uzoka-Anite, had said that Nigeria will commence local automobile manufacturing before the end of this year, 2024. That's in a couple of months. So one will ask, is that still feasible? She said that funds to grow the nation's automotive industry have been made available to local manufacturers. Well, let's speak to one of those local manufacturers now and see if perhaps that has been made available. Speaking to Mr. Innocent Chikuma, he's the chairman of Innocent Group of Companies and joins us virtually. Mr. Chikuma, good morning and thank you for your time.
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah.
All right, so the minister had told us, Minister of Trade had told us earlier, I think that was in May, that by the end of this year, we'll see a boost in local automotive industry. Being a player in there, are we on the path? We're just a couple of months to the end of the year. Do we see any substantial movement or action by the end of this year?
Good morning, everybody. Yes, I'm sorry, I cannot hear what you said, the last word.
Okay, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
So I'm asking, the Minister of Trade had said by the end of this year, 2024, we would have a boost in local automotive manufacturing here, and that funds have already been made available to local manufacturers like yourself. What's the status at this time?
Yeah, this speaker.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chikuma?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, all right.
I can hear you. Yeah, the speaker of this, yes, come again.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chikuma?
I can hear you right now.
Okay, so let me ask the question again. I'm asking if we're on our way to manufacturing cars locally in Nigeria by the end of this year.
Yeah. Please, can I change this? The speaker cannot allow me to hear you very well. So that's
all right. Okay, Mr. Chikuma. All right, dear. So I think let's just take a break. See if we can still accommodate this on this. So let's take a break now, and then we'll be back. All right, having a bit of hitch there with the chairman of Innocent Group of Companies. I hope we can hear him, or he can hear us now. We could hear him before. Mr. Chikuma, can you hear me now? Could you unmute, Mr. Chikuma? Can you hear me? Mr. Chikuma, can you hear me? You are on mute. Could you unmute so I can hear you? I cannot hear you. All right, I think we have to postpone this conversation. I apologize to our viewers out there. I believe we have Mr. Muda Yusuf also on this meeting. Would like to discuss those issues raised in that report by Will Ibong, the consequences of the reforms, and perhaps there are other ways that it could have been handled, you know, and I wonder if Mr. Muda Yusuf or Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf, good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning, Nini.
Great.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you so much. So I wonder if you saw that report by Will, and sometimes we do not give thought to the non-financial consequences of the reforms, but she did bring it out there. Do you think that perhaps there are other ways of managing the consequences of the reforms, which our president has told us is a necessity for a bright future?
Well, I think the president is beginning to take some steps, you know, to manage the consequences of the reforms. And one of the steps is what the policy measures contained in the economic stabilization plan. Because all along, what we have been seeing is more of monetary policy action in terms of floating the currency, issues of high interest rates, MPC, and all of that. We are now beginning to see some, introduction of some very good fiscal policies. Because what we have said all along was that the bigger issue has to do with the cost. cost of production, cost of logistics, cost of energy, and all of that. And we believe that the fiscal policy measures will have a much bigger impact on those elements of costs in the economy. So, I mean, we are here to see the full unveiling of the economic stabilization plan. But my guess is that a whole lot of it will be around issues of import duty, around issues of reducing taxation and all of that. So if you can have more of that to reduce the cost of production, cost of operation for businesses, I think that will go a long way. You know, so that we will limit, we reduce the social consequences of the reforms on the citizens. And we also need to check, how far we go with issues of this use of market forces, because we need to define boundaries. There are some elements of policies of some challenges in the economy that the market cannot address. So we should watch out for what we call market failure. Where there are evidence of market failure, the state has a responsibility to intervene. That is the way it works in a market economy. So these are the things that we need to, because the reform is not perfect. So we need to fine-tune it as we progress. That, for me, I think is the way to go.
The thing about the plans and the policies is a scary one. For instance, the withholding tax on small businesses. I mean, we were done with that conversation like months ago, and we're just hearing that it's been gazetted before it begins implementation. So for this plan, this stabilization plan, we learned it's supposed to start by January next year. But, sometimes the process of even getting through with the bureaucracy and then to begin to talk about implementation before we think about the impact on the economy, looking at policy gap, which is normal, it means that some people are asking, will Nigerians be alive to even see the impact?
No, you see, the government needs to work. The government needs to work a lot more on implementation, because the implementation lag is extremely too long. It's too long, because for us to have any effective impact of policy on whether small businesses or even on the citizens, even if the policies are good, as we have seen with some of these policies around food, around pharmaceuticals, the implementation lag is too long. So something has to happen within the apparatus of policy implementation. I know there's a unit in the presidency charged with monitoring and evaluation and all of that, but that unit has to do a lot more. Because take the instance of the policy on the pharmaceuticals. This policy was announced in June to reduce the import duty on medical equipment, pharmaceutical raw materials, and even eliminate those duties completely. And we thought that with some other positive policy measures. This was announced in June. As recently as a few weeks ago, this policy is here to be implemented. So we need to ensure quick implementation of policy. And when we have these policy measures, because of the urgency of the moment, we need to reduce the bureaucracy in terms of the guidelines. Some of the guidelines that the bureaucrats put on the way of operators in the economy slows down the process. So we need to also examine the guidelines to ensure that the guidelines are not such that will make it difficult for the policies to be implemented on time. Because normally we have all manner of guidelines that constitute major impediments to implementation, to access of some of these policy measures, even some incentives. The guidelines are so bureaucratic that you can be on it for 2-3 months. So these are some of the things I think the government also need to reform. The policy, translating the policies into actions.
Dr. Yusuf, would that involve the lawmakers, the Senate and House of Reps?
Well, that may involve, and that is the implementation. I'm talking of the issues, those ones that requires legislative action. There are some policy measures that doesn't require legislative action. So that is where we need to call out the bureaucrats to ensure that the bureaucratic bottlenecks are reduced. I think that is also an issue. We need to also work on that, because this stabilization bill now, some elements of which will require some legislative action. You know, so those things are very important. And in any case, for even the things to go through, we also need to have some further stakeholder engagement. I know that the Taiwo Daily Committee had consulted quite a number of few people, but by the time we see the full bill, there may be need for further consultation with stakeholders.
All right.
So that will be happening at the level of public hearing.
All right.
All of these things need to be accelerated.
All right, Dr. Muda Yusuf, Chief Executive Officer of CPPE, thank you so much for your time and your views this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll head over back now to the Sunrise Daily Studio. We'll see you at 1 p.m. Ladi will be here, I'll be here, and we'll take you around the world of business in 55 minutes. Join us then.